The dad's response is somehow even worse than her question.
Okay.
Because he says, I'm not going to sit around here piecing together clues while my daughter is missing somewhere in this house.
Oh.
What else are you going to do? The only way to get out of this room is to solve the puzzle.
I'm going to wait for my daughter to come back here.
Like, what are you talking about? She doesn't know you're here. You don't know where she is.
Grab some popcorn and stick around. We've got some garbage to talk about.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Zax.
Welcome back to Spooktober.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell us what we're...
You know what we're doing. We're looking at a movie, or I guess we watched a movie. I watched all of a movie, and you watched most of a movie.
To be in my...
Called No Escape Room. You don't get an offense. You fall asleep all the time.
But in this case...
Okay, you know what? I will give you the defense that this movie is genuinely so generic and boring for the first 2/3. And after that, it gets very weird. And I want to... normally, I would just kind of drop people in blind, but I want to say something about this movie beforehand, and about movies generally. So when a movie... And I'm going to be explaining something that everybody already knows. When a movie wants to reveal something later in the movie, like, oh, that guy was a robot the whole time, the way they do it is you show some little bits of information, like, that guy did this thing that's a little bit robotic, and you're like, huh, that was weird, but you don't have the explanation until the reveal. And even if the audience figures it out early, it's still a reveal to the characters. Why the world is the way it is. Why the weird thing happened. Why these events happened, how they connect. This movie does not do that. This movie has weird things in it, and then it never offers an explanation. And it is so irritating that it doesn't. Whoever's listening, I want you to keep in mind that anytime I tell you something weird, if you have the question, but why did that happen specifically? The answer is almost certainly no reason at all. No reason at all.
Because I remember, and I'll bring this up, because, like, as I was in and out of consciousness of the movie, I remembered I had several questions that I assumed would be answered.
Right. And these are the kinds of, like, they set things up, and then they never get a payoff.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, the movie's called No Escape Room, and genuinely, we picked the movie because the title is very stupid. And yet, the movie's title may be the most clever thing about this film. The movie starts, and there's a father and daughter.
Can I just say, about this father and daughter, it was weird casting.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Because this guy, he looks like, okay.
His name is Michael in the movie, but he looks
very young, and, like, I get it. Like, he could be in his 30s and have a teenage daughter. I understand that.
Yeah, she looked too old. She still looks like a teenager. So if she's older than a teenager, that was, she's very youthful looking. But he was also very youthful looking.
So it was weird, especially because he's trying to... They're doing that thing where it's like dad's weekend. He's so out of touch with his kid. But at the same time, it also, because they look so close in age.
Yeah, you would think they'd have more in common than, like, a much older dad.
Well, it was also like, wait, are you still her? Because, like, at first, until she was like, ugh, dad, you're late. Which I was like, oh, good, okay.
Thank you for establishing that in dialogue instead of making me think, does she just have an older boyfriend?
Because that's
the age dynamic they look like they have.
Because I was like, because either way, this relationship was on the rocks.
Yeah.
Boyfriend or dad,
they're not happy.
They're not good.
So he's like, okay, look, I know this isn't the best thing ever, because they're going to go horseback riding, I think, or maybe they just went horseback riding. It doesn't really matter. They're driving to or from horseback riding, and she's kind of like over the whole weekend. And he's like, why didn't you wear the necklace I gave you? And she's like, I don't know, it's whatever. They kind of just have their banter or whatever, and something goes wrong with their car. I don't remember what. It doesn't really matter. They go to an auto mechanic. Auto mechanic says, it's going to take a little while for me to fix this thing. So they go, okay, we'll just find something to do in town. and they're in the middle of nowhere. They do not state what city or town or state they're in. They go to a diner, and when they go to this diner, he's looking at a newspaper, and he's like, what do we want to do? Okay, I see there's kids movies, and there's a laser tag or something. He's like listing off things. She's like, no, I'm not a baby dad. You don't have to, no, come on. And then he finds in the newspaper at the diner, he sees an escape room. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, you said something about an escape room the other day. Do you want to go? And she's like, well, my friends went to this escape room, and they said it was a lot of fun. I guess we could do that. And then the waitress comes, and he's like, hey, is this good? Can we go? And she says, oh, you don't want to go to that because people go there. And as I'm doing this, I'm certain that the audience already knows where this is going. She says, you don't want to go there. It's, no one ever comes back. It's so dangerous. And then she starts laughing, and she's like, I can never keep a straight face. And I'm like, you kept a straight face through that whole thing.
Like, that was much longer. Like, if it was like, oh, you don't want to, because then you'll never be back. Okay, I'm sorry. No, you'll be
like,
fine.
if she broke in the middle of it, that's what not keeping a straight face is.
That's what happens in real life. But in horror movies, it's always like, what?
She gets all the way through the warning.
Yeah.
And then can't keep a straight face.
Yeah, it'll be like, years ago in a mansion they were dead, and like this whole, like, she had a long thing.
They'll get more into it later, but
she had like this like whole backstory for the thing before she broke character, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah, no. And it's actually really irritating to me because, like, if she had kept a straight face, what was she gonna do? Warn them and then walk away? And then, like, they would just be misinformed? Is that the joke? That's not a joke. That's not funny. Anyway, so they're like, ha ha ha, great, we'll walk to this escape room. And when they go there, it's like a house.
Yeah.
So it's like an escape house, I guess. Mm-hmm. And when they go in, they don't see anybody anywhere. And they walk into the main hall. And then the movie does that thing where you see the camera angle looks at somebody who's close to the camera, and then they move slightly, and then, oh, there was somebody behind them. The somebody behind them is Josie. By the way, I don't know if I said, the girl's name is Karen, and the dad's name is Michael. Okay. Yeah. So this lady, Josie, is behind them, and she says, oh my gosh, how did you guys get in here? Oh, who are you? What are you doing here? And they're like, whoa, what the hell is wrong with you? And then she takes a sudden personality turn. After her first line, she's like, you made it. Good, come with me. And they're like, oh, okay. Wow, she's good. And I'm like, what do you mean she's good?
Yeah.
She didn't do anything other than, like, completely change her personality.
But also she put her hands on them.
Yeah, she put her hands on Karen before they've even begun the escape room.
Yeah, another thing I wasn't sure of, like, do they ever pay?
No. No, they never do. That's a good point. So she ushers them into a room where you see the rest of the cast is waiting. And by rest of the cast, I mean, like, almost the entire rest of the cast. The movie has almost nobody in it. They've got the waitress, they've got Josie, these 5 people, including Michael and Karen, and then, like, one other person, and that's pretty much it. So they go into this room, and you get to meet all the other 3 people who will be doing the escape room with them. One of them is a guy who's on his phone the entire time. His name is Tyler. Then you see Tyler's girlfriend named Melanie. Melanie, it's her birthday, and she's dragged Tyler to this thing. And I gotta say, if somebody does not like escape rooms, like, they've explicitly said they don't like them, you've taken them to escape rooms before and they had not enjoyed themselves, that is not a birthday present to yourself, to bring that person along.
This is one thing, too.
Why would you bring them to an escape room?
This is, like, a question that I had, since we're talking about these two. A question that I had was, were we supposed to, like, feel anyway? Because Melanie is like an escape room junkie.
Right. They asked her, like, oh, have you done one of these before? She's like, I've done a million of them before.
She can't get enough of them.
Can't get enough. And, like, her boyfriend doesn't like them. And are we supposed to think... Like, I mean, I guess the point is, like, they want to have a couple example characters, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the last guy is Andrew. He's a loner. And then when they ask him, like, hey, are you here alone? He's like, no, I'm with the escape room. I'm a plant. And they're like, what, really? And he's like, no, you think I would tell you that? And it's like, ha ha ha. Then you can see that the movie's trying to, like, lead you on into thinking, like, oh, the big reveal is going to be that he's the main bad guy. And we'll get to that. But Andrew's there, Tyler's on his phone, Melanie's there, Josie comes back out, she's got little scrolls, and she's like, I have drafted up some, I don't know why I'm doing that voice, I'm still doing the voice, I've drafted up some contracts for us, here you go, each of you take one, you sign it, it's a standard thing about the escape room, and if you want to leave at any point, the word to leave is awake. Mm-hmm. Okay? So she says this, and if you were just seeing people go to an escape room, I'd be like, okay, that is the kind of thing, right? Like, they want to have a safe word because this escape room might be a little bit tense or dangerous or something. Not your mama's escape room. So it makes sense for them to have this word. But it doesn't make sense for this movie to have it because, as we'll find out by the end of the movie, there is supernatural stuff going on and Josie's some kind of ghost. So why would the ghost have escape room safe word? Or even have them sign the thing? Right? Like, that's just a way for the movie to lie to the characters, and in a sense sort of lie to us, but more lie to the characters. And it's never really explained. So anyway, the word is awake, they are led into the first room, but first things first, she tells them the story. And the story is... Do you have any questions, by the way?
Right now I'm good.
Okay. The story is that there was an inventor who lived in this house, and bad things were happening around town. And 5 people went to the inventor's house and never got out. And so it's the job of our escapees, our main characters, to help them escape. So it's all themed around this, right? Like, in a real-world escape room might have that as theming, right? Mm-hmm. Somewhere they're trapped and you have to solve puzzles and that'll get all of you out, right? I can see that working. Mm-hmm. The problem is that this movie doesn't know what it's trying to do with this story. Because we never meet the inventor or any of the 5 people, because I'm pretty sure that whole story is a lie. So I don't know what it's not supernaturally true in any way. It's not like this was true and now the ghosts are around.
I was wondering...
It just doesn't matter. The story, The frame story doesn't matter. It never really comes up.
That is interesting because I remembered wondering if it was going to be the kind of thing where it's like, oh, that's nice. If like an actual ghost house just heard about escape rooms and we're like...
I mean, that would be weird, but at least it would add up as a plot. But no, they don't do that. They don't explain anything.
Well, it leaves very little left for me to predict, but I'm still interested.
Okay.
Did you mention the dry iced tea or whatever?
Oh, I forgot about that. So she gives them each a cup of tea, and it's got like bubbling, like smoke coming out of the top. It's obviously just put a little bit of dry ice in a couple of cups. Never comes back up. Does not matter at all. She has them all drink some, and they're like, okay, it's some tea. They go into the first room, and she says, goodbye, have fun. And they start looking around. And they're like, what? I think Michael asks, what are we supposed to do? Which is a stupid question. It's an escape room. And then Melanie's like, look for clues. Anything that looks out of place. So the room has, like, theming. And you see, like, Karen picks up a little bottle. And she's trying to pronounce the name on it. And Andrew, the loner dude, comes over. And he's just like, that's pretty close. It's ayahuasca. And she's like, oh? And he's like, yeah, they think that they may be communicating with the dead. And then he kind of looks at her, and he's like sort of hitting on her, and she's a teenager, and we're all going, ugh, what? And the dad kind of comes over and wedges himself in between, and he's like, yeah, cool, let's keep moving, people. And it's like so weird that they included that in the movie.
Yeah, because if I remember because this is
Because again, that never goes anywhere either.
But he hits on her
a couple times in this room, yeah.
A couple times, but then like when things get dicey, it's like it doesn't come up.
No, well, it doesn't come up because she disappears for like half the movie, but
he's not in a. But when that happens, he's not like. It's not like him and the dad both want her back, and it's like, okay, you could want her back a little less. You know, nothing.
You creep.
It's like he wasn't.
But I mean, like, I think the point of that is they're trying to make us not. Evidence. I think they just want us to not like Andrew, and it's weird because, like, by the end of the movie, we find out he was genuinely just a random guy.
They just didn't like.
He's just he's just a random guy who happens to be willing to hit on teenagers,
which isn't good.
Which is horrible. Like, I don't want him around, but like. It's weird.
But he doesn't have anything to do with Ghost House.
Yeah, he has nothing to do with the Ghost House or the escape room.
The other thing I want to say is, and like, because I've only been to an escape room once, but I've seen pictures of other escape rooms. This escape room that they put was so...
elaborate.
Well, I was gonna say so generic. It was it was like because it's just a bunch of old timey crap all over the place.
That's true.
They just. I
mean, it was a lot of old timey crap, but it was just a lot of old timey crap.
And it was just like kind of all. It was like they just threw it all over like. The Exorcist vomited the old timey stuff all over the room. It's just
nonsense. Anyway, they're wandering around this room. They're looking for clues. Karen finds a record, like a vinyl record, and she's like, "What's this?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know." They find a record player in the room, and she puts it on the record player, and it plays this atrocious song, just awful. And they all comment on like how bad it sounds, but the lyrics involve like a snake and a raven and a wolf and something else. It doesn't really matter. And there are 4 masks hanging on the wall. And one of them goes, wait a minute. What if we order the masks in this order? And it's like, okay, that is the kind of thing, the kind of puzzle you might find in an escape room, right? You hear something, and you're supposed to make an association, and then use the puzzle pieces. So they reorder the masks, and sure enough, something clicks, and I think a safe opens up. Or a painting swings open and there's a safe behind it. And now they need numbers. And at this point, in a real escape room, one of the main rules that they always tell you in an escape room before you go in is that if you've used a clue, you're done with it. Because if they don't do that, then the room becomes impossible. Because you have no way to know whether you are misusing a clue that needs to be reused. So, as soon as they got done with the masks and the record, those should be completely off the table for getting through the next stage. This movie violates that rule twice. And it's really bad, actually. So, they're looking for numbers for the safe. And Tyler, by the way, right at the beginning when she gave them the contracts, she took their phones. So Tyler's like, I want to answer my emails. And Melanie's like, you can just realize that we're going to be here for 60 minutes. Your emails can wait. And I'm like, he's already not having a good time. Why are you antagonizing him about his stupid emails? Like, why are you with this guy? You're crazy about escape rooms and he hates them.
Yeah, like
find a new boyfriend.
But it's fine, even if you just want to be crazy about escape rooms.
Just don't bring him. Bring your friends.
Let him stay at home.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it.
He's not.
He didn't. It's not like he said. And like he's bitching and moaning about the escape room. He's like, God, I'm not having fun or whatever. And she's like, this happens later when he storms off. She says to the group, this is the way Tyler always is. He'll act excited until we get there, and then he'll be grumpy the whole time. And I'm like, first of all, that's the opposite of how most people are. Most people are like grumpy until we get there, and then when they get there, they actually have fun. But also, why? If he was excited, I've never seen him excited about this. The moment we saw him initially, he was already dejected. So what are you talking about? He hates these things.
Yeah, but also, if this is how it always is,
stop bringing him!
Yeah, let's just change it. Like that lie of an Einstein quote,
Definition of insanity.
insanity.
Yeah, because that live and Einstein quote. I hate that people bring that up and say Einstein said such an inane, stupid thing. Like Einstein was wasting his time trying to define words that he has no expertise in.
But like, yeah, I don't know why she brought him, and like, I get why he goes, because if he's like, I love her, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
But, like, it was weird, too, because it definitely felt like he was having panic attacks.
Yeah, he was really... Well, like, actually, that's what I was about to get to. Yeah. So, he's looking around, and he picks up one of the masks off the wall, and he puts it on, and he's looking through the holes. And while he's looking through the holes, he sees, like, a spooky shadow pass in a weird way. And it passes by so fast that if we rewound it 3 times and only saw it on the last time. The second time I watched the movie, I didn't see it at all. But I knew it was there from the previous times. But it happened so quickly that you just don't get a chance to see it. And he's, like, spooked by it. And then he starts looking at his hand, and his hand looks like it has, like, worms crawling under the skin. It's like, oh, gross. And he's like, ah! And then everyone's like, what? And he's like, oh, I must have had too much of that tea. Which is supposed to be kind of a joke on the ayahuasca thing, except that, like, she never claimed that the tea they had in the first room was ayahuasca tea. And if it was ayahuasca tea, that would be illegal, which I guess a ghost wouldn't really care about. But also, but also would completely invalidate the experience of the rest of the movie, because then they're hallucinating the whole time, and then I don't know what I can't. Why should I care?
Hey, we're murderous ghosts, but we have a code of conduct.
We have a code of conduct, and that code of conduct is we love the law.
Yeah, we don't drug you.
Ugh, not only are they ghosts haunting me, but they're thin blue line ghosts? What the hell is this? Anyway, so he's spooked, and he goes, ah! And he jumps backwards, and he bumps into a lamp, and the lamp falls over and turns on, and it's a black light. And I'm like, sorry, does the ghost expect somebody to just bump into this lamp? That's part of the... Because, like, if it was a switch, I'd understand. But he doesn't pull a switch. He just bumps into it. That's not a good way to solve a puzzle. Anyway, the black light shines back on the masks. And this is where they violate that rule. Because there's numbers on the masks. And they go, the numbers, let's use them as a code. And so they read them off, and they use them as a code to the combination of the safe. They open the safe, and inside the safe is a key. They use the key to go to the next room. And when they go in there, of course, someone says, I thought this was called an escape room, not escape rooms. And I'm like, go to hell. Like,
but to be fair, that was
they gave you an hour to do this. You solved 3 puzzles.
When we went to an escape room, it took us quite a bit. We spent a lot of time.
Yeah, but you didn't have an expert like Melanie there.
True.
Yeah.
Although Melanie didn't do a thing.
Melanie doesn't solve any of the puzzles in this movie.
Andrew had time to hit on a teenager and solve the puzzle.
Like, I kid you not, Andrew solves... Melanie. In the whole movie, Andrew solves one of them. The dad solves like 7 or 8 of them, and the daughter solves like 2 or 3. Melanie never solves anything.
She's just really amped to be there. She's the hype man of the group,
I guess. So they go into this next room, and in the next room, there's stuff around, and there's like a radio and a typewriter and clocks all over the room, and they're all stopped. And by the way, if you enter an escape room and there's clocks all over the room that all say the same time and they're all stopped, I mean, well, even if they're not all stopped, you look at the clocks, the very first thing you should check is if the clocks are all stopped. Because if the clocks are all stopped, I guarantee you the numbers mean something, right? Like, why would you, even if there were just 2 clocks in the room, and they're both stopped at the same time in an escape room, that should instantly clue you in that the numbers on the clock mean something. Anyway, they walk in, and there's a phone on the desk. And this is where... they try to set this up for later, and it does not make sense later.
Okay.
The phone starts ringing, and Melanie picks it up, and she says, and I wrote this down, she says, hello? And then on the other end, you hear, hello? And she says, it sounds like, and then you hear, sounds like. And she says, oh, it's a gag. It's playing my voice back to me. I don't know what this means, though. And then the voice on the other end, which is her voice, says, You don't know what this means. And then she's like listening to it because that's not the same thing she said. And then she hears, you don't know what any of this means. And it's in her voice. And she's like, somehow they're reconstructing my voice and playing it back to me. And Tyler is standing there and he says, honey, what is it? And then she hears from the phone, he's there now, isn't he? Let me speak to him. And Tyler doesn't want to talk on the phone. He's not ready to do anything in this escape room. Again, why did he come? Why did she bring him? And finally they convince Tyler to get on the phone. He gets on the phone, he says hello, and then you hear on the other end, Ty? Oh, Ty? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Then Tyler looks at Melanie, Melanie, he's looking confused like, did you set this up? That's your voice on the other end. And she says, that's not me. And then, God, the voice on the other end of the phone says, that's not me, Ty, that's not me. You have to get out of there. Just run, get out. And then the phone hangs up. And he starts getting like pain in his ear, and he pulls back and he feels on his ear and he's got blood. And then he looks at the phone and the phone has worms coming out of the receiver. And he drops the phone and he screams. And everyone's like, whoa, what? And he says, there were worms coming out of the phone. There was worms in my ear. And they're like, no, it's fake blood on the phone. And I'm like, that would not be a cool thing for an escape room to do. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I don't know why you're not immediately all going, okay, stop. You can't do this to us.
Yeah, I would go home.
I would go home immediately. That doesn't make any sense. This is not a fun escape room anymore. You're just terrorizing my friend.
Yeah.
Or this stranger I just met. He's freaked out.
That's another thing, too. Like, if someone else has more traveling escape room expertise, I was under the like you bring your own group. You don't just get lumped in.
If you're a small enough group, you can like I remember my brother went with a girl, and there were like a bunch of frat guys there, and he went there and the guys afterwards confronted him because they've solved all the puzzles before they could do anything, and he said he felt bad about it because it was like. He didn't mean to do that. He just got to the answer before they did. And they got out. And they were like, like, we're going to have to go for another escape room now. Because, like, you just did the whole thing. And he was like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. Did not mean to do that. Bye. And then he left. Because he's not going to pay for them to do another escape room. Anyway. So Tyler is like freaked out. He's got blood on his ear. Mm-hmm. He's got the worms coming out the phone. He's like, screw this. I don't want to do this. I hate these things. You guys seem like you're having a lot of fun. You're all into it. I'm not having fun. I want out. Let me out. He starts slamming on the door. He's like, what was the word to leave? Awake. Slam, slam, slam. Finally, one of the doors opens and he just walks right through and the door slams shut behind him. And they're like, Tyler, wait. Tyler doesn't wait. And they're like, and then she says her thing about like he's always like this. He says he's excited to come and then he's grumpy the whole time. And I'm like,
first of all, are all the escape rooms you go to like this?
I mean, she doesn't say he's always like this with escape rooms. I imagine he's like this everywhere. It's like, hey, let's go to Applebee's. I'm excited to go. I can't wait to have their honey chipotle chicken tenders. And he sits down and he's like, they were better last time. Like,
I don't think so. I think Tyler, because like he was really panicked, and like if I saw worms eating my ears, I don't care what anybody says. I'm leaving. I was Team Tyler because Tyler made more sense than basically everybody else involved.
Yeah. By the way, sorry if you can hear our cat. He's been very lonely today. Anyway, so the phone call happens. Then they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then Karen looks around and she sees the clocks in the walls. They all have the time. The time is 10:12. She's like, the clock's time is all 10:12. Maybe that's the radio station. And her dad says, huh, so you think the numbers might be the radio station, like, station? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, what was the number? And I'm like, who wrote this? He just heard her say 10:12. He can also use his eyes to look at the clocks and to determine the time. They're having a conversation. How is he so checked out that he doesn't know what the hell she's talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, there's several ways he could know this information, including the fact that she just said it. But he's like, 10:14? Like, no, 10:12. They put in 10:12, which, by the way, that is not a radio station. FM radio stations are on odd numbers. But they put it on, and there's a letters being read out on the radio station. And it's like J, Q, F, N, and they're like, oh man, look, the typewriter, all the keys are out of order. So let's just type on this thing, and it'll type up some message. They type on it, and it prints out the message, 5 lost from midnight. Okay, so they're getting a nonsense sequence of letters typed into a nonsense typewriter, and they get readable English words. And it is at this point that Andrew says, maybe we're just complicating it. What the hell do you mean we're just complicating it? You just took nonsense and made sense of it. Of course that's intentional. You think you accidentally got pronounceable English words from nonsense letters? What are you talking about? You're just complicating it. Anyway, they're not sure what to do, and then Karen, again, is like, wait a minute. There's a grandfather clock here, 5 lost from midnight. Maybe that's just a time we have to set it to. So they set it to 11:55, and the clock opens. And the grandfather clock opens, and there's a small key inside. And they try it on a couple doors, and it doesn't work. And then they try it on the door to the closet, and when they open the door to the closet, they go, oh, it's just a closet. Well, let's start looking around. And then someone says, like, maybe it's just a closet. And again, I'm like, do these people not know that an escape room is set up?
No.
Like, they, at this point, think they're still in an escape room, but they don't seem to realize that the clues were intentionally placed there. That's the point of clues.
No, I'm pretty sure with escape rooms, they just find a furnished house.
Yeah.
And then they stage
with
the
esoteric
steps,
ways to move around.
and they, like, script the escape room according.
So, like, all these instructions we just did were just so that you could get the key to the closet. That's all that
In
is.
1872, that's how this family
It was
lived.
common for homes to have closet keys hidden inside grandfather clocks that had to be set to 11:55. And also, the way you found out to get the 11:55 is tuning a radio station and typing in the letters you get. That was all just to get to the closet. Anyway.
Yeah, OG Smart House.
So, like, half the crew of 4 now, because Tyler has disappeared. He went through a door and we didn't see him from there. They're like, I guess we'll just look around in the closet. And they start patting around on the floor. And then, I guess, I don't know, I feel like if I stepped into a closet, a well-lit closet, I would immediately notice if there was a dying body on the floor.
Yeah.
They did not notice.
Okay.
And instead, underneath one of the coats, like just barely draped over, is Josie.
Oh.
Laying there. And she's got a big wound on her stomach. And she's like, oh God, I'm dying. And then they're like, Andrew and the dad are like, and Michael are like, whoa, holy crap, she's actually dying. And Melanie, actually quite reasonably, goes, this is probably part of the escape room.
And then it's weird. I think this might be.
And Karen is somehow on the fence about it.
Yeah, but everyone jumps on Melanie's case.
Yeah, they're like,
it's unreasonable that she would think this is still part of the game at this point.
Right, and like this is not the evidence that we're not in an escape room. I don't know what these people expect an escape room to be. Anyway, Josie says, and I quote it here. It was the inventor. He's here. Get out or you'll never escape. Find the master key.
Okay, so I remember being half asleep, and the one question I kept asking was, did we find the inventor? Who's the inventor?
We never meet the inventor.
Okay.
I don't know why she says it was the inventor. He's here. Because, again, he's not here.
And he never was.
She's also not... We find out later, this is not part of the escape room. This isn't part of the escape room at all. So what the hell is she talking about with the inventor? I don't know. Anyway, after they talk, they take a step back and they're like, she's really wounded. Even though, like, again, nobody actually did an inspection of the wound. They just saw fake blood and they all went, oh, she's dying. Mm-hmm. Which is, again, like, I mean, that's like if they walked into the room with all the stopped clocks and it says 10:12 on all of them and they go, oh my gosh, it's so late. Like, what are you talking about? You're in an escape room.
Yeah.
Anyway, the door slams shut. And then Michael, the dad, says, like, you know what? If she's really hurt, she's in critical condition. We gotta get out of here. Awake, awake. Nothing happens. No doors open. And they're like, you know, like, well, maybe this is still part of the escape room. And they're like, what do you mean? Is that part of the escape room? Them ignoring the safe word? And they're like, well, Tyler got out. And it's like, did Tyler get out? We just watched him walk through a door and never found him again. I don't know if he's really, you know, out. And they're like, we got to get out of here. Let's look around for an escape. They look around. Above one of the doors is a window. And it's a very thin window. And they're like, nobody's going to be able to fit through that. Which is a thing people only say in movies right before a child or a teenager says, I could fit, and then the parent goes, no, you can't do it, I forbid it. And then the kid says, Dad, I can handle this, which is exactly what happens in this film.
Oh.
Window, Karen's there, I'm a teenager, I can fit. No, you can't go there, you're my daughter, I'm so scared. Don't worry, Dad, I can handle this. She goes through the window. And then this is something I think crazy. So she's standing outside and they're like, okay, hey, Karen, what do you see out there? And she's like, I don't see Tyler out here. I'm just looking around. And I see there's other doors here. And she looks at a door with like foggy glass. And she sees a hand slam up against the glass. And she goes, ah! And that never goes anywhere. And then she hears Josie calling her name. Karen, 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 come here.
Why do you
and she says,
Karen?
Yeah, I don't know.
These feel like placeholder names for everyone.
Michael says, yeah, it really does. Michael says, Karen, you still there? And she says, don't worry, Dad, I'll talk to you the whole time. She does not say another fucking word to him. She just wanders off in the direction of the voice.
Don't worry, Dad.
We'll be in constant communication. Bye. And then she leaves.
Golly, this trip was a bust. I'm out of here. Where are you at, Josie? Let's go get some smoothie.
Yeah, so she wanders off after the voice. Michael, Andrew, and Melanie are now alone in this room. And we will see what happens to Karen, but right now Michael, Andrew, and Melanie are all hanging out, and they're waiting for Karen to say anything. They're like, Karen, you still there? No response. Finally, Andrew and Michael decide they're going to try to bash the door down. They grab a big something and start slamming it into the door, and they're like, why won't this thing open? We cut back to Karen, and she has managed to find her way into the basement, where there's a morgue. And this is like an old-fashioned morgue, so there's like, you know how in like a morgue they have like shelves for dead bodies? These shelves are not refrigerated. It's basically just like a barn door in front of a hole in the wall that you can slide a dead body into, which is not the way old morgues worked, but whatever. The door, when she gets into the basement, for no reason, the door unlocks for Michael and Andrew. They're slamming into it, didn't work, but the door just unlocks itself. Then we cut back to Karen, and she's just found a bloody earring, and she goes, ah! And there's lights flashing, and then you hear that sort of like horror sting, ah! Getting spooky, and it's a generic, very slow creeping up towards a reveal of a corpse that was underneath a cloth. Mm-hmm. Then this I should also mention this is a sci-fi original movie, so on paper you would see this on TV and there would be commercial breaks, and there are spots for commercial breaks in this film.
Okay. Do you feel like they're well placed?
I feel like Karen is only there in order to provide a moment of tension for them to put a commercial break, because she spends the next maybe 30 to 40 minutes down here in this morgue slowly walking from one closed door or cloth draped over a corpse, just slowly walking from one to another and just going, commercial break, come back, reveal. And then she turns around and there's some spooky lights and she's like, She just spends 30 to 40 minutes doing that.
Sometimes movies will do that where they just like have a B plot, but like it never goes anywhere, never adds anything.
Yeah, this one especially didn't add anything.
So like she could have been with them or in the did she discover?
She could have not been in the movie.
So she doesn't like discover anything that could like.
She does later in the movie, but she still spends 30 to 40 minutes not doing anything useful.
Oh.
So upstairs, everybody's saying, "Karen, this isn't funny," which is a drink on your horror movie drinking game. Then she, downstairs, hears pounding, lights are flickering. She goes, the safest place for me to go is inside one of the morgue drawers. So she crawls into a morgue drawer and she lays down in there. Somehow she crawled in feet first, because her head is facing the drawer. Anyway, there's spooky pounding on the wall outside and growling, and she's like, and by the way, no explanation for what the spooky pounding or the growling is.
Okay.
Because there's no dog element of the horror story or anything.
Not the inventor, not one of the 5 missing asking
so
for help.
yeah, supposedly, yeah. Anyway, so she crawls in. The doors, again, for no reason, a door opens for the adults upstairs. And they go into this room, and it's in the attic. And the door slams shut behind them. And then Michael says, "Let's remember to start propping the doors open." And they never prop a door open for the rest of the film. This is another one of those things where the character explicitly says what they should do, and then no one ever does it. Karen's like, "I'm going to keep talking, Dad. We'll be in constant communication." And then she never speaks to him again. "We should prop these doors open." They never prop a door open. This is just... These characters are all sort of aware of what they should be doing, and none of them do anything about it.
With Karen not saying anything to her dad, is it the sort of thing where she understands she's too far away, like we see her try?
She just silently wanders off.
That really does sound like
she's just looking around and like silently wandering off.
But she's not like, "Dad."
Not even like a, "Dad, I'm gonna go investigate this voice." Nothing. Doesn't inform anyone and just wanders off into the basement.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So they're in the attic. There's a projector playing. There's a fan spinning overhead. They make sure to point the camera at the fan so that you can see it. And you can see already on the fan there's something written on the blades. Like, that's already obvious. There's also a desk up there, and there's a padlock on the desk. And they just start looking around. And they're like, "I don't know, what's the point?" And then the dad shuts off the projector, which was playing some kind of spooky video. He shuts off the projector, and then Melanie says, "Hey, that might be important for a clue." And I'm like, "Melanie, you still think you're in an escape room? Karen is gone!"
Tyler, where's your boyfriend?
And, like, your boyfriend's gone. Karen's gone. Maybe, I don't know why you still think you're in an escape room, because so far, the last 2 doors you've gotten through have not been because you solved a puzzle. They've just happened. Anyway, the dad's response is somehow even worse than her question.
Okay.
Because he says, "I'm not going to sit around here piecing together clues while my daughter is missing somewhere in this house."
Oh.
What else are you going to do? The only way to get out of this room is to solve the puzzle.
"I'm going to wait for my daughter to come back here."
Like, what are you talking about? She doesn't know you're here. You don't know where she is.
But I think it's funny because that's like the opposite. Like when you're a little kid and you get lost, you're supposed to just stay right where... Once you realize you're lost, you're supposed to just stay there. And the idea is like
Two people moving around are going to miss each other a lot more than one person standing still and the other person moving. Yeah.
So, but like, again, you're the dad. You're supposed to be doing the looking.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I'm not going to sit around piecing together clues.
That's like the opposite of every Lifetime stance.
Yeah. So we cut back to Karen, and we see that she's in the morgue drawer, and she looks to her left, and one of the bodies in the morgue drawer is moving. It moves its hand. It moves its head. It turns to face her. Nothing ever comes of that. So there's growling outside, but we actually see footage of outside the morgue drawer. There's nothing out there. So, like, I don't know how we're supposed to be scared for her, because we can see there's nothing out there.
Oh.
Like, we hear growling, and she's scared, and then the camera cuts to outside, and you still hear the growling, but you literally see the drawer, and there's nothing in front of it.
Are they trying to, like, put it, like...
Spooky ghosts.
Or, like, could be an escape room, could be... Are they trying to, like, play
Maybe
both?
that's what they're trying to do, but it doesn't make any sense for that. Because, like, again, this is not how an escape room works. Right? Like, escape rooms are not torture chambers. Right? They're not just there. They're not haunted houses.
I presume, yeah, like, that, they're not...
She's also whispering to herself, awake, awake, which doesn't work, doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it is weird, too, because, like, for, like, a small town tourist track, I feel like it would explicitly say it was scary, and when they were looking it up.
Right.
Nothing
tips them off that it's going to be scary.
Like, I mean, I guess the waitress lady, but even then, not really.
She was just telling a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, because she was just like, yeah, they go to the escape room and they never come back. But that's,
yeah.
But, like, that's any escape room, even, like, a funny one or whatever.
So, back to upstairs. By the way, I could skip over, if you want, I can just skip over all the Karen shit. She literally just wanders from spot to spot. Something spooky is happening. Cut to commercial.
Yeah. I guess, just let us
Okay, I'll just skip over it.
Relevant.
Okay.
But we'll assume...
Just assume that 30 to 40 minutes, and then sprinkled in there, they've got scenes of her...
So where are we at
with the parents, or with Dad. So Michael and Andrew and Melanie are just standing around upstairs in the attic. In the attic, there are some doorways that have cloth draped over them, and there's no explanation for what those are. It's just spooky decorating. And Andrew finds 2 new reels of film. And he's like, oh, maybe the clue's on one of these, which would be a good point, except that, again, if you were in an escape room, you would never be required to accurately put a reel of film on a projector, because that is not something anyone could do or figure out.
Yeah, it would usually be, like, in a side already, you press play.
Right. Because, like, the whole point of an escape room is that nothing they ask you to do will ever require you to do something that some people couldn't do.
Otherwise, you'd be allowed to have your phone so you could Google.
Right. Or, I mean, I'm just thinking about, like, what about accessibility? Like, if you're, say, you have shaky hands, you're not going to be able to put a reel of film onto a projector, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to do the escape room. You know? That's why they don't make anything that's not wheelchair accessible. They never put stairs in an escape room, because that would be not wheelchair accessible. Anyway, so Michael is just wandering around. We see another spooky, really bad-looking shadow effect on the wall. The footage on the reel that they put on is... There's a creek, and there's a tree, and there's like a little gear turning in it. And it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing to them. Then, later on, we find out what that is, except it doesn't mean anything to us then either.
Oh.
It's just weird footage. And they're like, oh, that's spooky. Some dumb shit with Karen. Okay, Andrew, this is also how they're spacing out them figuring out this very simple puzzle, because again, I mentioned earlier, there's a fan spinning overhead, and we see that there's writing on the fan. So, like, obviously you stop the fan and you look at what the writing is, and that'll probably tell you something. Andrew realizes that the projector is strobing light, and that if you shine strobing light on the fan, it will show us the numbers. But because the fan won't, like, it won't look like it's spinning. If you strobe light on a moving object, it'll just, like, look like a still image.
Okay.
And so they they get a mirror and they shine it on the by the way, they show later that this fan is within reach. They could just stop the blades with their hand. They do later. But
I love when they do it like a hard one way.
They do it the hard way first, and then they're like, oh, there's a much easier way to do this. But they use a mirror to shine the projector light onto the fan. They get the numbers, and weirdly enough, the numbers, even though the fan is spinning, they get the numbers in order. It's like 7382. And they just know where to start. Because they put those numbers into the padlock, and somehow it just opens. I guess maybe the padlock was set to work with any combination of those 4 numbers.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It was spinning. How do you know which one was the first number?
You don't even know what the order of the numbers is, because they're spinning so fast that you can only get whatever number you see.
Yeah, it seems like ideally, if it still was an escape room, they wanted you to turn off the fan.
Yeah, that would be the way to do it. And even then, like maybe a dot on one of them to tell you that's where you start, or like...
if it's the kind of thing where you could just try multiple times.
Yeah.
But as long as you know the order the numbers
right, but you don't with the fan still spinning, you don't know the order or where to start. Yeah. So...
Because they said 8, 3, whatever.
Yeah, and they just happened to get it right. First try.
Strange.
So... In the drawer, the padlock opens a drawer. In the drawer is a key. They put the second reel on, and I'm like, what are you doing? You just finished this puzzle. They put the second reel of...
Hey, we got an hour to solve everything.
My daughter is missing. I'm not going to stand around here watching stupid home movies.
Oh, is that a chaplain?
Oh, boy. So they put on the second reel, and the second reel shows Melanie running through this room. Just running from one side of the room to the other, and then, like, on loop. And she's like, what? And Michael and Andrew, they're like, okay, good, we got the key. Let's get the hell out of here. They use the key to open the door, and even though he just said, like, not 10 minutes ago, we should prop open every door. He doesn't prop the door open, and the door slams shut, and Melanie is now trapped in the attic.
He did say that like 2 commercial breaks ago, though, right?
Yeah, so nobody was going to remember anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
And so she's left behind accidentally. The door slams behind them, and she's like, okay, I'll just go to the door and leave. And she walks down to one end of the attic and comes out the other end of the attic. Uh-oh, turns out we're in a PT situation where the room is looping, and she looks around and says, this is really good. And I'm like, you still think you're in an escape room? They have footage of you doing something that you didn't do on a projector reel.
Yeah, also, you had already solved the puzzle. So had you guys just not...
She just wouldn't have seen that footage.
Yeah.
And this footage, the footage we saw, is the footage we're seeing now of her getting stuck in this room going through a loop, somehow still thinking this is an escape room.
That's so bizarre. Because also, like, especially this makes more sense if you've never been to an escape room, right?
I mean, this makes more sense if you've never been to an escape room and also you don't know how any sort of logic or physics work. But, like... If she's never been to an escape room, she might be like, whoa, is this what escape rooms are like? This is crazy.
Yeah, but the fact that she's been to so many.
She should be like, this is supernaturally weird.
Like, yeah, because I'm just thinking, like,
Incredibly. As she's walking through this room, she's going through, like, I said there were doorways and there was, like, cloth covering them. So she pushes through one and looks back and sees herself in the room and still doesn't get she's not in an escape room.
Melanie's got some problems.
She's got some big old problems. She's like, wow, this is wild. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, she's an escape room junkie.
You're seeing yourself. You are seeing the back of your own head.
The thrill of escape is too great.
This is literally Portal, and you aren't getting it. So she's wandering around. She's like, oh man, I am lost though. We should get the hell out of here. And then this is where Michael and Andrew are now alone. And all this time, Andrew has been helping them solve. This is, by the way, that was the one puzzle that Andrew solved. Michael says, "Tell me you have nothing to do with this." He's now instantly suspicious of Andrew. And Andrew says, "What are you talking about?" And Michael says, "You seem to know a lot about these rooms." And Andrew says, "You solved more of these than I have."
He says that?
Yeah, and then Michael goes, "Nothing phases you." And it's like, I came here alone. You're the ones losing loved ones. Of course I'm not phased. I'm the one who's not losing any loved ones. Somebody has to be stable. Would you rather I cry? And then
Did he say
no, that's me saying.
okay,
But he
okay.
says nothing phases you, and Andrew responds, "Get the hell off me!" and pushes him off. And Andrew storms off downstairs.
Like, I'm phased.
It's like, I'm not happy about being stuck here. Okay, and like I don't know why you think I'm suspicious.
Yeah, a bigger issue, like, that would be the time for Dad to be like, "And you were hitting on my daughter."
Yeah, right.
That's
like,
an issue.
Yeah, it's like, look, man, I don't know what you want from me. I want you to stop hitting on my daughter. You know, like,
okay, at least we've got to the real root of your issue.
yeah, well,
But
okay, so this is about
so
where
now
you were.
everyone's alone.
Yeah, everyone's alone. Melanie's alone.
that's
This
wonderful.
is, I think, where you fell asleep.
Officially,
So-
I'm no longer half in it.
What happens after this point is, and I'm sorry it took us an hour to get to this point, because this is where the movie goes completely 100% off the rails.
Okay, what happens?
We don't see him do it. So I think we're still supposed to suspect Andrew is secretly a ghost or something. Andrew finds his way to the basement and has a lantern.
Oh,
He just has one.
okay.
Like a lit gas lamp. And amazingly, this is a scene I told you about when you woke up, because it's such an insane, completely out of nowhere scene. Michael is still mad upstairs. He's like, "Ugh, I don't like that Andrew guy. I should let him wander off to find my daughter without me. But I'm mad at him." And he's standing around, and he sees a pair of double doors upstairs. And he sees muddy footprints leading away from the double doors. And he opens the doors, and he looks in the room, and immediately in front of him in the room is a wall. And it's got a photograph on it of a creek with a tree. It's the same creek we saw in the footage a minute ago, but that was 2 commercial breaks ago, and no one remembered, and I didn't even remember until I saw the movie the second time. It doesn't matter, though, because he's looking at this picture, and he's just, like, staring at it, and the music is getting a little tense, but, like, nothing scary's happening, and he's looking at it, and then, like, the wall sort of wobbles and falls backwards. And now he's standing outside. Like, he was looking at a picture of the tree and the creek, and now he's standing by the tree and the creek. And it's like, oh, something supernatural's happening. And then a woman comes up out of the water, and she's not dressed in old-timey clothes. She's wearing, like, a tank top.
Okay.
And she's, I guess, kind of attractive. And we've never seen her before. And this looks like an Evanescence music video to me. Because there's, like, random imagery and, like, a hot woman coming out of the water and a dude just standing around. It feels like a new metal music video.
Yeah, I get the vibe.
And she walks up to him and just starts, like, making out with his neck.
Okay.
She's, like,
And
kissing...
Whose neck is this?
Michael, the dad.
Okay, this is a dad's
And
neck.
he's like, oh, okay. I don't know how I got here, but, like, okay, I'm feeling this. And she's like... I don't know what's...
So he's not repulsed or confused?
No, she's not dirty or anything. She came out of the water, she's completely clean, and she looks...
I'm sorry.
She's just making out with his neck.
If Idris Elba just started making out with my neck apropos of nothing, I would have a question or two.
No, there's no questions to be asked. So she's making out with his kissing on his neck, kissing on his chest, putting her hands on him, and then, like, while she's doing that, the cameras keep cutting to different angles, and then at least some of the angles we can see that there are chains appearing around him, around his arms, around his back, and he's like, wait a minute, what? And he looks over her shoulder and he sees this gear turning in the water, and it's lifting up out of the water. And again, this feels like a new metal music video, because a gear turning in a creek by a river while a dude is standing and chained up, like, this imagery doesn't mean anything. And soon the girl is completely gone, and we realize that the chains are connected to the gear, which is pulling him into the river, and he's pulling back against it, and one of the chains is wrapped around his neck. Now, I don't know if you've ever had something wrapped around your neck that is being pulled on, but the best thing for you to do in that situation is not to pull away from the thing pulling on your neck.
That's true.
You should pull towards the thing, lift off the encumbrance around your neck, and then walk away. But instead, he's pulling on these metal chains, going, ah, while it's strangling him. And the girl's completely gone. And then he falls backwards, and now he's back in the house. And he falls backwards, and now he's like, oh my gosh, he puts his hand on his throat. He's like, what the hell was that? He stands up, he looks, the picture is there. Now in the water, there's the gear. But it's, again, what does it symbolize?
So wait, he left the room or he blew skidooed into a painting?
He blew skidooed into a painting, got choked by a chain, and then he kind of anti-blew skidooed out.
Okay.
And now he's back in the house, and he stands up and he walks towards the stairs, and he looks back and he sees that the muddy footprints he saw that initially drew him to this room were his muddy footprints.
Okay, so this is the same thing they did with Melanie, just a painting instead of a film reel?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
But, like, does it mean anything?
No.
No.
Okay.
We'll never address what the chain or the
so it's
gear
not like,
or who the woman was or what tree that was or the creek. None of it gets explained.
So it's not like the 5 ghosts or something have an ulterior motive.
Yeah, we haven't seen a single one of the 5 ghosts, by the way.
So it's just people go to a house and some weird stuff goes down.
Spooky things happen, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then they all leave at the end, or where?
We'll see.
Okay.
Because now we cut back to Melanie, who's still wandering around in the back rooms of this attic.
Still in a circle, still
I mean, really, like, the back rooms are scarier than this attic because she's just not getting it. She finally gets that she's not in an escape room when she pushes one of the cloth doorway things aside and sees Tyler there, hanged by the neck.
Oh my god!
Like by a noose.
Oh my!
In this, and I'm like, what does that have to do with him? What does that have to do with, like, that's not an ironic way for him to die because nothing ever connected him with nooses. I don't know why he's here. She's just spooked.
I mean, I guess from what I remember, it seems like he should have been eaten by worms or something.
Eaten by worms, choked on his cell phone. Like, maybe he gets caught in an endless escape room. Like, these are the kinds of ironic deaths that a horror movie is supposed to give him. And instead he just got hanged by some ghosts.
They just...
Off screen. We never saw it. We don't even know why. She's, like, shocked. She's like, Tyler, no. Then we hear a phone ring. And she runs back to the desk where the projector was, and there's a phone on there. And then we see the other side of the phone call that we saw before. And if you remember, the way the phone call went was, and what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to put an effect on my voice so the audience understands which side of the phone call is... The effect is going to go on the side of the phone call from the future. Okay, so this is what we saw the first time. Hello? Hello. It sounds like... It's a gag. It's playing my voice back to me. I don't know what this means. You don't know what this means. You don't know what any of this means. Tyler says, honey, what is it? She says, he's there now, isn't he? Let me speak to him. Tyler says, hello? She says, Ty? Oh, Ty, I'm so sorry. That's not me. That's not me. What do you mean? That's not me, Ty. That's not me. You have to get out of there. Just run, get out.
Okay.
So, when we saw this the first time, Melanie was talking to maybe a ghost that was imitating her voice. But now we're finding out that it was actually her. But if that's the case, she just saw Tyler die. She's on the phone with her past self. And she can't think of anything useful to say to her past self from 20 minutes ago. Because remember, this whole movie's taking place in this house within an hour. So this happened recently. She recently was on the phone with herself from the future. Now she's in the future, calling her past self. She can't think of a single useful thing to say. And instead...
Look, this is not a joke, please. Serious. Like, say something that only Melanie would know.
Right, like your birthday is this. Your secret is this. You need to get out.
Yeah, you've got a Tweety Bird tattoo on your right butt cheek. Get out of there.
Right, like, I am you. I can prove I'm you. I just lived through 20 minutes of hell, and Tyler is dead. She doesn't say any of that. Instead, what she says is... hello, and we see her. It's on camera. She's standing there with the phone in her hand, and she says into the phone, hello, sounds like. She just says the words, sounds like,
Wow.
apropos of nothing. She just says it. Then she says, when she hears the person on the other end say, it's playing my voice back to me, she says, you don't know what this means. You don't know what any of this means. Which doesn't tell them anything. Then she hears Tyler over the phone, and she says, he's there now, isn't he? Let me speak to him. Which kind of makes sense if she just saw him die. And then she wants to say something like, useful to him. And then what she says to him is, Ty? Oh, Ty, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Which doesn't make sense to say to someone who hasn't yet been killed. But then, the her on the other end of the phone says, that's not me. Remember, she said that in the past. And she responds, that's not me, Ty. That's not me. Yes, it is. That is you. That was you. What do you mean that's not me?
You now know.
You were on both ends of this conversation.
Yeah, at this point now you know that you're you. I mean, even if we allow that all to make sense, it's still no reason for her to say sounds like.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, why did she say sounds like?
Because she follows time travel rules and she's like, well, it's gotta keep going the way it's been going, I guess.
And then she says, you just have to get out of there, just run, get out. And like, that's not helpful. Because if she used her brain to remember what happened, again, less than an hour ago.
Yeah, what I don't understand is, like, at this point, like, I understand being, like, in shock of the moment, so maybe you won't say, like, everything.
You won't say the perfect thing.
But you remember this phone
conversation.
You remember thinking, like, oh, this is weird, they're copying me. But now you're on this end and you know you're really you.
Right.
So now...
So why are you asserting that the other you on the other end...
Which... I think what they should have, because, like, I've seen this done better in other things. They should have just made it where both sides of the conversation... Because I've seen this done before in other things,
Mm-hmm.
so they should have just done it where it makes sense for her to think that this is fake, but also for the other... Now, I don't know what they could have said, but...
I can tell you exactly what
Yeah.
they could have done.
Yeah.
Just make the phone call fuzzy.
Yeah.
If you hear a lot of static and you're barely hearing the words on the other end, then we as audience members would know, oh, she's talking to her past self. But you don't have to show us a full conversation, and they don't actually have to communicate any information. You can be like, Tyler, this is a trap. You should get out of here. Do this. Mm-hmm. And then that information goes... And so Tyler never gets the information. And then he still dies, and she tried her best, and it made sense, but it didn't work. Mm-hmm. That would have been fine. Instead, the conversation doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Why? Who would say, sounds like?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, you're talking on the phone to yourself, and the first thing you say, you hear the other one say, "It sounds like," and you say, "What? What's your response?"
Oh, in real life?
Yeah, what would you hear, "Hello?"
Hello.
It sounds like...
I'm you!
Oh, you wouldn't immediately go, "Sounds like..." And then,
Yeah, we're not doing the mirror game.
And then, when she said the first time, she said, "But it's a gag, it's playing my voice back, but I don't know what this means." That makes sense in the context of an escape room, because it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out the clue, and it's just playing my voice back. Maybe that metaphorically means something. Maybe I've got to look in a mirror, or repeat a thing, or something, right? Like, you try to figure out interpret that clue. I don't know what that means. And then her response is, "You don't know what this means. You don't know what any of this means."
Which is not helpful.
That's not helpful. That doesn't even describe the situation.
Yeah, that also is like, I know. That's why I'm like...
That's why I'm confused.
I'm working towards the solution to that issue. That has been addressed.
Yeah, like if I say I'm confused and you respond, "You don't understand." I'm like, yeah, that's what I said. Like,
we're done troubleshooting.
What are you talking about? Anyway, so she does that. And that was a nonsense conversation.
Where are we at in the movie?
We're like 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Okay, so this
Maybe
is like,
closer to the
so
end.
we should be close to like resolutions and answers at this point.
This would be a point in a movie, a normal good movie. Like, a good movie would just tell us what the reveal is and then expect us to remember the details that led to the reveal. And a bad movie, or a less clever movie, less confident movie, would tell us the reveal
and then go back
and show us flashbacks of like, "Do you remember this? Do you remember that? This explains those facts."
Yeah.
This movie does neither. This movie does not explain anything.
We're just going to keep new stuff.
New spooky stuff.
Okay.
Okay, this would be when a reveal should happen, and instead, new spooky stuff. She's so shocked. She falls backwards and just falls on some kind of sharp thing that stabs her through the back of the head and out her eyes. Dead instantly.
Well, I guess she didn't have to grieve Tyler too long.
Yeah, great.
Worked out.
Her final words were, "You just have to get out of here, out of there, just run, get out."
Okay. Well, she did. She got out to the other side.
Yeah. Anyway, we get down to Karen.
Okay.
Karen sees Andrew.
Okay, she's gonna matter again.
She's gonna matter again. Andrew's holding a lantern, and he's like, "Hey, I found you. Thank God I found you. Your dad's so worried." And she's like, "Why did you guys split up?" And he's like, "Yeah, we split up to look for you." Which is not true. That's just a lie. You stormed off because her dad confronted you. So why are you lying to her, Andrew?
Yeah, that seems a little sketchy.
That's really sketchy.
At the same time, though...
I mean, this is what happened. You did split up and you found her.
At the same time, though, it's weird. I don't want to give him any benefit of the doubt because he was hitting on her.
Yeah.
But maybe he wasn't supposed to be. Maybe the movie writers thought it was... But, like, then they needed to make her younger. Okay, they need to make her like...
That makes his crimes worse.
No, listen. I don't think that they acted it right, but if she was like 12, then he's just this older guy like being nice to a kid.
Being friendly to a child, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because actually, I didn't bring this up, but when they do find out why he's at the escape room, the reason he's at the escape room is because his doctor said he needed to improve his sociability, but through interactions with strangers. And, like, I don't know if this makes sense as an explanation. I think we're supposed to think it's suspicious that he would say something like that, because it's, like, a very esoteric reason for... I think I used that twice in this video. But it's a kind of weird reason for him to, go to an escape room. Turns out it's basically true. Again, I said earlier, this movie goes off the rails.
Okay.
The logic of what happens here makes no sense to me.
Okay.
He came in through a door.
Okay.
That door leads to a hall. That presumably leads to a door that goes upstairs. That's how Karen got in here. That's how Andrew got in here.
Okay.
She looks down at the table with the corpse on it, and she sees a map of this house.
Okay.
And she sees a number of other things, and one of those things will become important later, but for now the map is important. She looks down at the map, and on the map, she sees an escape route for this room. And she looks around and she says, it says it should be over there. And she points, and we see on the map there's a little hallway leading away from this. She points, and it's a wall, and there's a toilet. And they look at each other.
Down.
They look at each other and they go, oh boy. And I'm like, what do you mean, oh boy? Move the toilet, break down the wall, there's a hallway on the other side. That's what the map says. And they look at each other like, here we go. Like, we're all supposed to know what they have to do. And Andrew looks at this toilet, and in the toilet is dirty water, murky brown, and he's like, I'm going to reach my hand in there and pull out a key.
What?
Right? What are you talking about? You said this is a way out, not a key. The key can't be on a map. That's not what a key is. So anyway, he reaches into the toilet. Yeah, they're like, ugh, gross.
I would have tried the backboard first, because if this was an escape room, and like...
Yeah, I would have like pushed on the wall, see if it's maybe a false wall.
Or just lift the like back lid. But
yeah.
But why would you put your... Like, why would it... I mean, I get this isn't a real escape room anymore.
Right.
But like... Why would it
be in there in a toilet
just
bowl?
To be like,
no, I gotta say,
stinky.
there is famously in one of the Silent Hill games, there's a scene where one of the characters gets a key from a toilet bowl, and he sticks his hand in there and pulls it out and doesn't even comment on it. And then in the next game, they made a joke about it because there's a toilet and it looks like there might be, and the main character goes, ugh, no way, and then walks away from it because people were like, why would you just nonchalantly stick your hand in it? So maybe they were making an oblique reference to Silent Hill. That's the best.
Wow,
that is the best explanation. That's
you in debt with how much credit you're giving.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. I'm bankrupt from giving them that much credit.
Yeah.
Okay, so he reaches in and he says, "Oh, I think I have something. Now I have some keys here.
Okay.
I want you to hold this key.
Okay.
You imagine you reached into a toilet and you've grasped a key.
Okay.
And you think, I think I've got it.
Okay.
And you slowly pull it out, and what he pulls out is a dismembered hand. How did he think he was holding a key?
Like bone, maybe?
No, fleshy. Fingers are still kind of pliable. Looks like it was cut off 2 weeks ago, tops.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Let me see.
Does that feel... Here, hold my hand. Now hold the key. Similar feeling? Maybe if we were wet. Maybe if my hand was in a toilet, you would be like, oh, you're the same. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he drops the hand in there, and she sees it, he sees it, they go, ah! And then he's like, oh my god. And then she starts rolling up her sleeve. And I'm like, he already volunteered to do it. He already touched the hand. Don't get your hand in there, Karen. He's already doing it.
Just break the wall.
I mean, like, if they still want... Well, she's going to dig around in there, too. And he's like, I'm not going to stop you. And he, like, steps back out of the way. And I'm like, why did you both need to do this? I don't know why this needed to happen at all.
That's
but
part
if
of
one person's going to do it... Like, if there's a toilet that needs rifling through, and I've already volunteered, there's no reason for you to join.
Yeah,
we don't both need shit on our hands.
Yeah.
She picks the dismembered hand up and tosses it over her shoulder, where it flops onto a table. And then she looks at Andrew and says, it's probably fake, right? And he says, yeah, it's probably fake. And I'm like, how do you people?
I think...
What world do you live in?
Maybe that's more...
Now, granted, he hasn't seen, I think, anything supernatural, really, right?
Yeah.
She's been down here the whole time, except she's hearing growling and pounding. She thinks she's going to get attacked.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
Okay.
She digs her hand in. She removes the dismembered hand. She finds a key.
Okay.
And there's another part of the room where there's a grate over a tube. And she says, I think this is our way out. And I'm like, why do you think that? And she opens it with the key. And they leave through the tunnels. And even though he had a lantern, and this tunnel is big enough for both of them, he can get on all fours and crawl in this tunnel and still have room to kind of shift left, shift right, and above. He's got enough room that he could have crouch walked in. Does not bring the lantern with him.
Okay.
So even though they're in these tunnels that have no light, somehow there's light in here. We can see them and they can see each other. And they're wandering in. And we see that the tunnels have branching paths. And somehow Karen just knows where to go. She's just going through and he's following her. And then he goes, oh, ah! And then she turns around and he screams and is pulled out of camera frame in the tunnels. Oh no, Andrew was captured. Commercial break, we never see him again.
Oh. Wait, like...
We never see him again. That's the end of Andrew.
Oh, he was captured
So he really wasn't a bad guy.
Or he was and he got out of dog.
He got by the ghoulies? Like what? He gets captured or killed or whatever. He gets killed off screen. We never see him again. We never hear from him again. They never use his voice or anything.
Okay.
Karen is wandering through the tunnels. For some reason, Michael wanders into the attic again. He goes back into the attic where Melanie's dead, Tyler's dead, they're somewhere else in the attic. Okay. And he's wandering around, and then Karen comes out of a tunnel in the attic. Now, she was in the basement. Wandering around, we never saw her elevation change. Now she's coming out of a tunnel in the attic. Let's just assume that the tunnels are supernatural. It doesn't really matter. She comes out, she sees her dad. She's like, Dad, I'm so glad to see you. And Michael's looking around, and he sees that the projector is back on the original footage. The padlock is back on the desk. The room is reset, like an escape room would reset. And he sees... By the way, he sees Melanie's dead body there, because she fell backwards next to the phone. And he tells her, don't look, Karen, don't look. And then she doesn't look for about a minute, and then she does. And it doesn't matter. And he's like...
no reaction, just like, oh, dear.
She's like, oh, no. Michael, I don't know where he gets this idea. He thinks, well, the room is reset, so maybe we need to do all the puzzles again.
Okay.
And so he knows all the answers, right? He's like... I was here not 10 minutes ago for this fan thing. So, hun, just stop the fan for me and get me the numbers off the fan blades and I'll do the thing. I would have remembered the numbers. I remember the numbers now. You probably remember the numbers and you half saw the movie once. What are the numbers on the fan blades?
I want to say 8538.
Ah, so close. 7328.
Ah, okay, so...
Doesn't matter. Anyway, you half remember half the numbers. Either way, he stops the fan just to get him right. He gets it right again. He pulls out the key. That gets them out of the room. And then they run downstairs, and they're like, oh, we got to go backwards through this thing. So they go into the second room that they went into with the clocks, and they're trying to figure out the puzzles. And it doesn't really matter how they do it. She's like, 5 lost before midnight. She did 11:55 before, but now there's only 2 of them, so it's actually 11:58.
Oh.
But I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense because 3 of the people are dead. I would think those are the 3 lost before midnight.
Yeah.
They're more lost than you guys are.
Yeah.
But
so maybe the joke of the escape room is that, like, if this was a real escape room, the inventor invited 5 people who are missing and never found again, and you are those people.
They do come to that realization, but that doesn't... we never see the inventor anyway, so it doesn't matter. So they do the clock puzzle again. They get the key to the closet.
Okay, and
where
Josie's dead.
But, oh, sorry, real quick. I just want to say, when they're in the room, the door opens and an alive Tyler runs in. And he's staring at them, and they're staring at him. And then another door opens, and I think they wanted us to think this was like a shadow grabbing him and dragging him in, but it legitimately just looks like a person wearing black latex.
Okay.
It just looks like one of the guppies from Power Rangers.
Okay.
Like, just a black latex suit.
Just a ninjalino.
Just a ninjalino grabbed him and drags him into another room. And they're like, ah! And then Michael says, that's impossible. He's dead. And I'm like, how do you know he's dead? You never saw his dead body. You know a lot about these rooms, Michael.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the inventor. Anyway, so Tyler's gone. It doesn't matter. They redo the thing. They use the key to open the closet door. They find Josie laying there. She's like, it's the inventor. He's here. You have to find the master key. And then Karen remembers something that we saw briefly, and she's remembering now. And that is, it said, foreign object, it's an autopsy report in the morgue. And it says, foreign object removed from patient's stomach. And so she goes, Dad, I think I know where the master key is. It's in her wound. And Michael says, Karen, I don't want you to look at this. I don't want you to see this. And he digs his hand in there. And he's like, oh, God, this is so gross. But, like, it doesn't look like skin. It doesn't look anything. It looks like rubber that he's sticking his hand through. And Josie's like, dead. And so then he pulls the master key out. And he's like, we got it. We have the master key. And so they open the door, and there's like rumbling, and she says, Dad, something's coming. And we don't see what it is. And he uses the key on the front door, which is, I guess, locked from the outside. And they open the doors, and they rush out. And here's where the movie makes its biggest fuck you of the whole thing.
Okay, what are we working towards?
There was a scene that happened in the diner that I did not describe. Okay. I forgot to describe. But it wasn't really important then.
Okay.
Because what happens is they step outside, and in a flash, they are now standing in a stall in a bathroom at the diner.
Okay.
And they can see through a little crack by the door. There's our Karen standing at the mirror, and she's like putting on makeup or something. And this happened before. We saw at the very beginning, I forgot to mention, when they go to the diner, she goes to the bathroom, and she's got makeup or whatever, and you see she's got her purse, and she pulls out of her purse the necklace that her dad got her, and she looks at it, and then she decides to put it on, and she drops a quarter. Nothing happens. The movie did that earlier. The same fucking scare from earlier. Only now, Michael and Karen are also standing in the stall, looking through the crack. And at this point, they have escaped the escape room.
They're back at the diner.
And they've time traveled, basically. And I'm not sure why the movie is insisting that this is a tense scene. Because,
this seems like the few scene.
Right, no. The music is still like, oh, what's gonna happen if she sees herself? Like if I saw a time-traveling version of myself who just went through a harrowing experience, even if he hasn't gone through a harrowing experience, even if he's trying to kill me, I don't know what I'm supposed to do about that.
Yeah, because some time travel things make it like where you can't see yourself, but there's no reason for them to be particularly worried about that.
Yeah. Like, they just got out of a harrowing situation, And so she's like standing there, and then there's like a jump scare where the waitress comes into the bathroom to get like to wipe off her hands or wash her hands or something.
Okay.
And then the door closes, and Karen is standing there with the necklace on, and she's looking in the mirror, and then she hears Michael outside say, "Come on, Karen, we got to get to this escape room." And then she's like, "Oh gosh, okay, I'm coming, Dad." She leaves through the door, and then it's silence, and then Karen and Michael in the stall look at each other. And they're like, "Can we get out?" Okay. And they open the door, and they're standing around, and they're not sure what to do. So they're like, okay, I guess we'll just leave. And they open the door, and they're, for sure, they're in the diner. They see the waitress. They see the other patrons. They see their plates of food from an hour ago that are still there on the table, haven't been cleaned up. And they're like, holy shit, we made it. We're out. And they step outside the front doors, and they see, Karen says, "Dad, look!" And their car is sitting there. And they go over to the car, and there's a note on the windshield, and it says, "Turns out there was a bad valve, fixed it real quick, enjoy our little town." On the house. I left a key in the car. Which, by the way, if an auto mechanic is fixing your car, and you wander off to a diner, why would they just leave your car outside the diner? Like, what if you don't see your car? If you don't see your car, and you come back the next day and say, "Hey, where's my car?" And they're like, "Oh, I left it over there with a note saying the key was inside." You're not going to come back to a car. Like, the car's going to get stolen.
Not in this small town.
For sure in this small town. Well, anyway, they look, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we can get out of here." And they sit down, and then Dad says, "Okay, where's the key?" Check the glove compartment. And she says, "Dad." And they look. The glove compartment has a padlock on it. And the car's keyhole has been replaced not with an ignition key, but with like an old-fashioned door keyhole.
So they have one last room.
There is no escape from this escape room. Maybe. But like, why wouldn't the car's key and the camera goes into the keyhole and the credits roll?
Okay. Well, that feels very unsatisfying. Another question I have.
Yeah.
This is my biggest question. Basically, the only question I have left.
Uh-huh.
Had they cut down on the wandering Karen scenes by like 10 minutes.
That's a great... I already see where this question's going.
Could we have resolved where Andrew went after disappearing?
I don't even think they would have needed... The movie's like not even that long. I feel like you totally could have covered Andrew and kept all the Karen wandering around.
Because I feel like that scene must exist. I can't...
If they're not going to answer anything else... I mean, who was the inventor? Did the five... Like, was an inventor real? Who was Josie? Why at the beginning of the film, when we see Josie for the first time, she says, "No, how did you get in here? You have to get out." And then immediately changes to, "Oh, welcome."
Oh,
no explanation for that.
You know what? Though, given everything else, because everything happens twice, first she was, I guess... The
first time they see her...
She's stuck in her own loop, because she's like... I'm gonna get murked in a second. I gotta warn, and like these people are on the wrong. She's like, "No, you idiot, you went the wrong way." Oh wait, never mind. You haven't started yet. You don't know what you're in for. Other yous are okay.
I think what they want us to think is that or at least maybe what they thought was the first thing she said, where like, "How did you get in here?" That's post. Like she is stuck in a loop. That's. Okay, Josie was a real employee of a real escape room, this building. There are spooky time ghosts here in this escape room. There is an inventor. The inventor attacks Josie during her loop and stabs her and puts the key inside her, right? Which is such a weird thing for a random person to do. But at some point during her loop, she gets attacked and she wanders out into the hall and she sees the two of them there and goes, you have to get out of here. And then she wanders off while they're not looking, and the past version of her shows up, the employee who doesn't know she's going to get killed, and takes her place very, very fast while the camera's not looking.
Yeah, I don't even know how to feel about it. Yeah. I don't feel spooked.
Yeah, it wasn't scary.
But
You remember when I said at the very beginning of this that no escape room might be the most clever part of this movie?
I agree.
Yeah. Right? Because, like, to be clever, you can't just do mysterious things. You also have to have an explanation for those mysterious things.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Like, if David Blaine was really supernatural, nothing he did would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's no escape room.
Yeah, I mean...
It's on Netflix, if people want to watch it.
Sci-Fi Channel, or Sci-Fi.
Yeah, Sci-Fi. It was a sci-fi unoriginal, and it's... I mean, you're not going to get it... Like, it's almost like if you watch the movie now, a viewer, if you watch the movie now, it's like you're in a time loop. Only you don't get the fulfilling end of just getting murdered at the end of the film. Because that's how I felt watching the movie twice.
Yeah, So because you watched it twice, so nothing, you didn't watch, like, normally it's like, oh, that'll be fun on the second viewing to see the, like...
The thing that was fun on the second viewing was looking for all the lost plot threads. Like, her showing up and having conflicting responses, or the ayahuasca tea, never comes back up. The clocks, the clues... Melanie being an expert at escape rooms, even though she doesn't, like, to almost the very end, people are still saying, like, maybe that's just a clue, and I'm like, what? And, like, they never ever explain, like, is this just a haunted house pretending to be an escape room, or is this an actually haunted escape room, or are ghosts, like...
Alright.
Did the inventor exist? Is that a myth made up for the escape room? Or is that just... Is he real? Like, was the story about him real? Does the waitress know about it? Because they show back up in the diner. So, like... And it's not even like those things where it's like, leaves you wondering... Like, I imagine that the creators of the movie probably wish that my questions here, or they probably want to say, like, see, we left you thinking. It's really psychological. And I want to say to them, no, it's not. These aren't questions I have where, if I think about it enough, I can come up with an answer. You just haven't given enough information for anyone to come to a conclusion on these questions, because there's no answer. I confidently believe you don't have an answer. Yeah. Creators of this movie. You do not think it's important to come up with an internal logic or explanation for why your movie works the way it does. Right? What's the fucking point?
Alright, well, thank you for trekking through that movie twice.
You want to watch it now?
No.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. We have a Discord where you can hang out with us. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe, because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.